welcome to Mid-State Money Talk. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Joe Dietrich and Kevin Dietrich of First Choice Financial Services. And to our viewers at home, we have a very important show for you today. We're going to talk about the ability to retire on your own terms. This is going to be a very good show, no matter what life throws your way. But Joe, first of all, how are you today?
I'm doing well. It's good to be back with you.
So good to be with you. Yeah. And Kevin, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
Good. I'm so glad that we're doing this show today. To our viewers at home, we want you to paint a picture, if you will. I know that you're sitting in your living room right now, maybe have a cup of coffee, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, what picture am I painting? Well, let's pretend that you have been in the office for many, many years. You're working hard. You're saving for your retirement, and you have that date actually circled on that calendar. You know exactly when that day is going to be. You're looking forward to it. You're having some hopes and dreams and plans for that day. Well, let's do a plot twist. Let's say that your boss calls you into the office and he says, I have some bad news. We're reorganizing, we're restructuring, we're downsizing. We need you to retire today. We've made some decisions. We no longer need you. Well, in your mind, it's the worst possible time. Well, how do we flip that into a positive? That story I know that we just painted is happening all across the country because different companies are doing different things with employees. They're being forced out early. And I know that we recently had this situation happen, Joe, in Camp Hill. How did you actually help that client navigate a very scary time at first?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something we're seeing a lot. We've seen it on several occasions. And we've seen people come in at different stages. It might be the first time we've seen them come in after they lost their job. We've had existing clients that we've been for years and transitioned smoothly. But I want to tell you a story about something because it's how quickly this occurred. Very recently, I sat down with a gentleman, Jim, and we started to plan for his retirement. And he assumed he had to retire at 70. And we were working on a plan, everything was going well, to maybe retire a few years earlier than that. Between our appointments, wouldn't you know it, I get an email from Jim, and guess what? He said, I just got laid off.
Wow.
What do I do? That's okay. We were already in the planning stages. Now, thankfully, we're already in the planning stages. It would have been great to have started that planning 5 years, 10 years before, but here we are, right? So that's how quickly this happens.
Yes.
So we're continuing our planning, and then we get to be able to reassess those assumptions that we've been working on. But Jim's goals didn't change. He still wanted to retire at 70 or maybe a few years earlier. How do we still accomplish that even with this plot twist? And so that's what our next few meetings were about. And we kind of started digging into specifically what is really needed as far as wanted. He got to reassess his kind of career choice. So he had worked in IT and business analytics for 20 plus years, had managing a team, a global team, that comes with a lot of hours, a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, So Jim was able to kind of reassess what he wanted to do for the next few years before he officially kind of retired in its entirety. It was kind of a slower retirement. So Jim had the opportunity to go look for something that maybe he wanted to do a little bit more, that he would enjoy, maybe a little less stress. And so what could have been kind of a disaster put us in a path where he could now, do something that he enjoyed for the last few years.
I love that.
A little less stress, and he was really happy. The thing that kept coming up was, I'm so glad we've already started this process because, financially, obviously that's a big hit, but that's an emotional hit as well.
It sure is. And you're definitely turning a negative into quite a positive. And Kevin, I know that you see this all the time, you, Joe, and Al, when people are coming into the office and they've received this news. So the question is, what steps do you recommend to someone when they get something like this handed to them? Let's just say the proverbial pink slip, if you will.
Yeah, we get this quite a bit, actually. As Joe mentioned, it is an emotional time. And so sometimes we have to change gears and put our counselor hat on and and let's come back to reality, and let's go back to some foundational truths that we have to build upon, and that is the plan. So sometimes the plan has to be changed, but like Joe said, the goals and the dreams and their desires don't change drastically. So the plan has to be tweaked and changed, but that's one thing that's good about working with an advisor, that you can do that. Because life gives you all twists and turns and will beat you around a little bit, but that's life. And so we have to make the best of it and The steps that Jim mentioned was that he did come in and talk with us, and
Yeah.
we put together a plan that was suitable, and then we can change and tweak to take that negative and turn it into a positive.
I'm glad you said positive, because how important is it to stay positive when you're having a transition like this in your life?
Well, it's important to stay positive no matter what you do in your life, obviously.
Yeah.
But transitions can be a good thing. They can be a bad thing. It's our attitude towards that transition. Jim's attitude was great. He reevaluated his life and said, okay, maybe I don't want to go back into IT and have to be managing all these people. Maybe I like to do something else that I want to enjoy, and maybe I need to work another 10 years. And so he really saw a different perspective, and that's really what our job is to sometimes just change that perspective for them.
Yes, yes. And what about when someone's being offered a severance package? Is it important to look and see what types of insurance products they would have? Like, would they still have health insurance?
Yeah, so there's obviously some very functional, some very basic things that we need to start with. And, if you've got that proverbial pink slip, then most likely then HR is going to be reaching out, and there's going to be a list of things to decide. Whether you have a pension, whether you have COBRA that's going to continue, do you have to pay for it? In Jim's situation, his company actually picked up and continued his benefits as if he would have still been working. That doesn't always happen either. So you need to look at that severance package in detail, go over it, and you've got some very important decisions to make. That's part of the foundation that we need to start with, but it also gives us an opportunity to say, well, where are our Social Security decisions going to fit in, and when do we start Medicare or not start it? So those are some items that you need to say. Your income plan when you retire, when do we need to turn that on? So the whole plan, is important. Not just, well, I've lost my income now. We need to go step by step and start building that plan anew.
And what about tax planning, Kevin? Is that part of that too?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we stress tax planning, especially in our office. That's one of our 5 steps, along with income planning. Healthcare, that's where COBRA will kick in. And so those are all areas that we have to look at. A part of the planning is make sure that you have the right income in place, that you have the right Medicare or health insurance choices if you're under 65, and then also make sure that you're making the right Social Security decision. And then, of course, tax planning is very, very important. Every opportunity that we give a client, or every advice we give is based on a tax perspective.
Okay.
So we are definitely very involved in that planning.
So whether it's 10 years, 5 years from your planning retirement, now is the time to come in and see us or see somebody like us to start working on that plan. It's a whole lot easier to transition when you have a plan in place, as opposed to after you've received the news and now you're scrambling.
And there are companies out there that do want to hire 60-year-olds. I think we should definitely talk about that for a moment before our commercial break, because so many people think, well, who's going to want to hire me now? That's not true.
No, that's not true. And I think that's a stigma that we've built, and that's not true whatsoever. Competency is competency. And so as far as staying positive is also reminding yourself that you have value to bring, and you've got a lot of experience and knowledge to bring, and there are companies out there that would love to have you. So certainly stay positive.
Haven't you heard the 60 is the new 40?
I have heard that, and I believe it.
There you go. 50, so I'm actually like 30 right now.
I think you are. I think we
look
definitely
30, right?
Very youthful.
You're too kind.
I'm honest. Well, this is the perfect time for us to take a commercial break. To our viewers at home, if you find yourself in an unexpected layoff situation or the proverbial pink slip that you're being let go and you don't know where to turn, this is the perfect opportunity to have a customized retirement plan drawn up for you. There's no obligation. All you have to do is call in to 888-959-2743, or even simpler still, you can click on the QR code at the bottom corner of your screen. That'll take you right to the landing page of First Choice Financial Services, and you can schedule your time accordingly. You don't have to enter the retirement world alone. You don't have to enter the severance package world alone. You can have a customized retirement plan to suit any and all situations. We're going to take a very short commercial break. Don't go anywhere. We have so much more to discover when we return.
When we tell someone something, they'll say, we can take that to the bank. If we can't do something, we'll tell them that. We're straight up with our clients. It all comes down to using the products for the people's needs, not selling product.
Being independent means that we have freedom to do what's best for our clients. We're not beholden to any other party to make sure that we're meeting a quota or restricted on what it is that we can do or provide. We're free to go out into the market and find what's best for them and what's going to meet their needs.
The world's our oyster, as far as what resources we have for our clients, and that's beneficial for our clients more than anything.
Don't be afraid to go ask for help. Find somebody you can trust and start the process. Obviously, the financial part is very important. Having a plan in place that's going to provide you with sustainable income, that's resilient to the changes of life and of the market, that's really important.
Money doesn't care who it serves. And one of the things that we like to do in our company is we like to be able to help people determine where their money is going to be and who it's going to serve generation after generation.
Welcome back to Mid-State Money Talk. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Joe Dietrich and Kevin Dietrich of First Choice Financial Services. And we're talking about how you can retire on your own terms, no matter what. Well, gentlemen, we talked a lot in the first segment about people that are getting their pink slip maybe sooner than expected, being forced into retirement. But you also help people navigate throughout different changes in life. One of those changes I'd love to talk about in depth a little bit right now for this segment would be divorce, when that happens to your clients, because we've seen some staggering statistics about people that are 50 and older that all of a sudden discover they have nothing in common anymore, that they're better off apart, and they decide to get a divorce. Wow, let's talk a little bit about how you can help people navigate a life change such as divorce.
Yeah, that's really a devastating time in your life, and I have a story that I wanted to share. I had a couple come in brand new from one of our workshops, and we're about halfway through the meeting, getting to know each other and get some information and just trying to develop that rapport. And about halfway through the meeting, the wife turns to the husband and says, "I guess we should tell him." He's like, "Well, I thought we were going to wait till later." And I said, "Tell me what?" Everything needs to be, on the table and up front here in these different meetings. She said, "Well, we're going to get a divorce."
Wow.
Well, I've already gathered information from both of them as to plan for a household going forward.
Wow.
And so I had to switch gears, and that's one of the great benefits of working with a retirement advisor, not necessarily a financial advisor, because you can switch gears and just develop a plan for both of them. So actually, what I did was I developed a plan for her based on her information, her accounts, and then one for him as well. And I also developed a plan for them both, just in case they decided to work it out.
And did they?
Always the optimist.
I know. I was just, was there a happy ending?
They did decide to stay together and work it out. And they have gone on somewhere else, but I don't know where they're at this moment. But I did develop a plan for both of them. They were very happy with it. And we started the planning and
The constant is change.
That's amazing.
Yep.
So a lot of times people have questions, especially when it's a situation like divorce. And they, like you said, you're a counselor a lot of times. People come in, they just want to talk about things. They just want to get your opinion. But I know that you've also come up with a retirement checklist. Can we talk a little bit about what is on that checklist?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, the sooner the better when we start planning. We would love to meet you 10 years before you think you want to retire, because this is where we can really optimize a whole lot of things. We need to start talking about, what does it look like to be retired? What does it feel like to be retired? Where do our accounts need to be structured from a tax standpoint? Is my asset allocation correct? What income do I expect? And what Kevin talked about earlier is, how do I start now tax planning for retirement? Because taxes aren't just a this year situation, right? They're not going away. We're going to be paying taxes for as long as we live, and tax rates are probably going to go up. So we want to look at a whole long-term view of our taxes, our income, those kind of things. So there's a lot of things on that checklist that you can get a jump on 5 years ahead of time.
Okay, Joe, thank you. Kevin, what about debt management? Is that important?
Well, obviously, that's very important. So we help during that checklist of our 5-step process. We talk about And the first interview is what type of debt do they have and how can we manage it? We've helped many of our clients pay off mortgages early and pay off credit card debt because they want to start retirement fresh and
Sure.
without any type of debt. And so do we. We want them to start retirement debt-free, stress-free, and enjoy their retirement. So debt management is very, very key importance in our practice.
Yep, great part of the checklist. And also, what about investment choices? Let's talk a little bit about that because that's a big one for people too that are entering retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talk about the red zone, the years before and after that retirement date. This is a very important time in which a major loss in your assets could really spell disaster long term. So this is an important time to reassess your risk, your asset allocation, where are you invested, what type of accounts you're invested in, because we want to protect what we can during those time periods and give us the best chance of success. It's a whole lot easier to recover after that time period if, say, the market drops significantly than it is in that particular time period. We actually kind of think, well, after I retire, I'll make some changes. I'll maybe become more conservative. That's kind of the traditional knowledge or the traditional thought pattern. But actually, we probably want to start earlier than that. And it's best to sit down with somebody who's walked through this many, many times before and really can set that plan in place.
Joe, what is the retirement red zone?
Yes.
Because you have that mentioned actually on here as well. I want to talk a little bit about that with shifting your portfolio accordingly, specifically when you're entering that red zone. What does that time period look like?
Traditionally, we say 5 years before your retirement date or 5 years after your retirement date. So that 10-year period is the red zone. Super important to stay away from a large hit to your overall portfolio. It will start to put additional pressure on those investments later as you're starting to draw income from those. So we want to make some changes before that time period happens. And frankly, preparing before that 5-year period before retirement is also helpful. If we're 7, 8, 10 years ahead of that retirement date, it's also to start sliding into that red zone and appropriate allocation.
Okay.
Part of that checklist we talk about is another 2 areas that we don't think about when we think of retirement is the emotional standpoint,
Yes.
but also the dreaming, like what do you want and goals in retirement?
Yeah.
So I think dreaming is really, really important, and we try to hit on that in that first meeting. Is some of the questions we ask is, what do you want to do in retirement? Well, a lot of folks don't have any clue what they want to do. They just want to get to retirement so they don't have to go to work.
Yep.
Well, that's the negative attitude. Let's just be honest.
Absolutely.
So let's look at some positive aspects of it. What do you want to do? Like, remember when you first got married and you had all these dreams?
Yeah.
Well, let's start dreaming again.
Yes.
What if money wasn't an object, was an issue? Let's start dreaming. And the emotional aspect of going from a paycheck every week to not sure where the income's coming into play, and going to a job every week, and now we have nowhere to go. Well, let's start dreaming, and we can find some places to go. And then also we notice in that time period, that red zone is, your risk tolerance may change. And a lot of times it will change. We have folks all the time when we do a risk questionnaire. Well, if you would ask me this question, 5, 10 years ago, I would say I'm at this particular level, but now I'm sort of here. We see that all the time, don't we?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's part of that emotional, because they understand that, hey, my paychecks are coming in frequently now, but as they go approach retirement, they're not going to. And then if I start pulling money out of my 401k, it keeps dwindling down, and then the market's taking money out of my 401k, so it's not going to last as long. So those are all emotional decisions that we see in that red zone and that checklist.
And you don't want those to sneak up on you.
Oh,
So by the time that it's ready to do those things, it can be pretty overwhelming. You want to be able to prepare for that ahead of time.
So working with a financial advisor or a retirement advisor is so important, because we have that checklist. We have seen that. We're that guide going into retirement.
You're the Sherpa.
We're the Sherpa.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, perfect time for us to take our next commercial break. To our viewers at home, are you thinking about how to plan your perfect retirement? Well, all you have to do is call in today to 888-959-2743 for your very own customized retirement plan. You shouldn't enter the retirement years alone, especially if it's something that you're being forced into too early and you need to reassess your goals, your dreams for your life, if you will. this is the perfect time to have the proper guide with you. That number again is 888-959-2743, or you can grab your smartphone, click on that QR code at the bottom corner of your screen. That'll take you right to the landing page for First Choice Financial Services, and you can schedule your time accordingly. You deserve it. You only retire one time. We're going to take a very short commercial break. We'll be right back momentarily. Don't go anywhere.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter. The one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back to Mid-State Money Talk. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Joe Dietrich and Kevin Dietrich of First Choice Financial Services. And we're talking all about how to plan your perfect retirement so you can retire on your terms, your way. Kevin, I want to talk to you a little bit more in depth about the checklist, because I love the checklist. And I love the fact that you tie in the emotional pieces as well, because that's so important. Let's talk a little bit about some other pieces and parts that should be in that checklist for them to approach the retirement finish line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so our five-step process is we do a financial review with the clients, which will go over their budget, figuring out what their needs are and what their wants are, making sure that we have a paycheck to come in to meet their needs, and then also a playcheck to come in and meet their wants.
Fun.
We're actually going to do an episode here coming up on paychecks and playchecks. So
Good.
Stick around for that. We also look at some other factors. So income, do they have enough income? Do they have a pension? When to file for Social Security? What other income do they need to meet those needs and wants? Medicare choices, that's a big one.
Yeah.
There's so much that they're getting inundated with through the mail, through the TV, through spokesmen on the TV,
Absolutely.
selling these products, and it can get overwhelming. They're very confused. Medicare is not a confusing topic, but a lot of folks that come in are very confused when it comes to Medicare choices.
Absolutely.
Because they're just overwhelmed with stuff.
There's very little guidance as to which plan is a right for me type of situation. Yeah.
Right.
And so we take time during our interviews to go through all of that. What does your health situation look like? How does it impact your finances? What does it look like just when you start taking Medicare at 65? Well, what's it going to look like 10, 20 years from now? So we want to, again, always taking that kind of long-term view.
Which is so important.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and right after the healthcare piece is the taxes. The tax planning we talked about, very, very key. And then obviously, like passing the money on to your loved ones is the last piece of that checklist, and that's the legacy planning. So those are our five-step process, and that allows when we lead a client and do the planning, nothing slips through the cracks.
I love that. I love that. Joe, you talk about the importance of the stress test for the assumptions that people may have about their retirement. Talk a little bit about that. How do you go about doing the stress test for your clients?
Absolutely. So, when we're planning, none of us know what the future is going to hold. We make some assumptions. We assume what it is our lifestyle wants. We want our lifestyle to look like, what our income needs going to be, what our market returns might be, what inflation might be, what taxes might be. All of these are unknowns, but we have some pretty good educated guesses on them. So those are the assumptions we start with. But we don't want to stop there. That's just the first step. We want to stress test those in a way that we can say, what if inflation is higher? What if our market return is lower and our income has to change? These are all different areas that we need. Every single one of those areas I mentioned, we need to stress test. So we can stretch and say, at what point does the plan break, for lack of a better word? So now it does two things. One, we kind of know what our limits are, but we also have confidence in the plan that we've put together, that we know if we get bad news on the internet or on the TV one day, we're not going to just having a real emotional reaction because we've already taken the time to stress test that plan.
Even if we get news that we lost our job,
Even if you lost your
or
job.
we may have
That's
to
right.
file for divorce.
Yeah.
That's why we stress test.
Yes.
Because we can make those changes
right.
and see how much the plan can expand, how much you can come in. So it's very
Yes.
important that we stress test
Yes, so you can look at some possible worst case scenarios and then work your way back to make sure that they have the guardrails up for their retirement.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yep.
What final words of guidance would you like to give the viewers at home that are actually how to retire well on your own terms if they're asking themselves, how do I do that? What do you want to say to them?
Begin early.
Okay.
Obviously, we've talked about that several times. Start 5, 10 years before you think you're ready. You probably should be doing this, right? But also find an advisor, somebody like us or us. Obviously, call the number on the screen, QR code. Cynthia's already mentioned those. But sit down with somebody that is going to take the time to listen to you and set out those goals, to set out that plan, to stress test that, and really listen to what your goals are in retirement.
Absolutely.
Also, prepare yourself for the emotional aspects
Yeah.
of retirement.
Oh yeah.
Prepare yourself to dream. Like start dreaming now. Like what do you want to do? Write it down. Talk to your wife or your husband or your partner and write these things down. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Where do you want
Yeah.
to see? What do you want to do? What hobbies do you want to do? I mean, we hear folks that retire and then within a couple months they pass away.
Yes.
Right?
We've all
That's
heard that.
horrible. But a lot of times it's just because they have nothing to do. They have nowhere to go. There's no purpose in their life at that point.
That retirement could be 20, 25, 30 years of your life.
Yeah.
Take some time and dream and think about what it's going to be, what you want it to be.
And when you think about it, every day is a Saturday.
Yeah.
So you have to take a look, right? So really you have to
Yeah.
know how to fill that with purpose,
Absolutely.
with joy, and making sure that you have the finances to really thrive because your practice is so passionate about that. You want to see people really thrive in retirement, right, Kevin?
That's right.
Absolutely.
One thing you need, you have to go through this alone. Pick up the
Yes.
phone, give us a call. It's what do you have to lose? You have
Nothing.
nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Kevin, thank you so much. Joe, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, thank you for spending time with us today. That number to call in, 888-959-2743 for your very own customized retirement plan. Be safe, be happy, and be blessed. We look forward to seeing you back 1 week from today on Midstate Money Talk. Take care now. We will see you soon.